We're starting section 8.5, angles of elevation and depression. And here's a few examples of elevation. Means from your line of sight, you're going to actually look up, and that's why these little arrows facing up. You're going to look up as elevation. For angle of depression, what happens is that at some point of reference, let me make a point right here, you're starting to look down. So this is from a line of sight and it's going down, making it the angle of depression. We already know how to solve trig functions. So in this section, what is more important is that we learn how to set up the problem, set up a picture. In your homework assignment, it does not have a picture, so we got to learn how to set up the pictures. It says the hilltop, the angle of elevation, so that's why we have this one over here. So what you can always do is just draw an angle, and you know you're looking for the angle of elevation when it says something like that, at a point A. And that's why we wrote the A here. To the hill, the top of the hill is 49 degrees. So this is a hill. You don't really have to draw a hill. So for example, you don't have to draw it. But sometimes that helps students understand the scenario better. If point A is 400 feet away from the base, so this is the base of the hill, so they drew right here, and it's 400 feet. How high is the hill? So this question mark is going to really be an X. So what I want you to do is think to yourself, can I solve this problem? And if the answer is yes, then you're good. On your test, if you set up the triangle incorrectly, I would give you most of the credit. So you just set up a problem and solve for X. So this one would be, this is the adjacent and this is the opposite, making it tangent. Tangent of 49 is equal to, the opposite is X divided by 400. So to solve this one, we could do a division of 1 and cross multiply. You have X is equal to 400 tangent of 49. When you put that in the calculator, 400 tangent of 49, the answer comes out to be 460. So approximately 460.1 feet that this hill is tall. So we already know how to solve them. The problem is just setting up this triangle. On the next one, it says find the angle of elevation. So remember, what I would recommend that you do is start with an angle, and the angle up is the angle of elevation. And we need to find it, so that makes it X. When elevation of the sun, when a 12.5 meter tall telephone pole casts a shadow. So we need the telephone pole, and we need its shadow. And the shadow, and they cast a 18-foot-meter long shadow. Now that you have the triangle, we set it up. This is the adjacent, this is the opposite. Making this the tangent of X, because we don't know the angle measure, is equal to the opposite over adjacent, 12.5 divided by 18. We're looking for an angle, so this has to be the inverse of the tangent, tangent inverse of 12.5 divided by 18. And that's going to give you approximately, so in the calculator again, you have to hit second and then tangent to get the inverse tangent, 12.5 divided by 18, close those parentheses, hit enter, and it's 34.8. 34.8. And don't forget, this is an angle, so it would be in degrees. During your tests, I usually don't take off points for the unit of measure, but it's just good to see if the answer makes sense. On the next one, this one's a little tricky. I don't know if you could set up this one without some practice. It says a ski run is 1,000 yards. So a ski run would have a slope, and that's why it's going down like this, and it's 1,000 yards. And it has a vertical drop, so that means it's going down like this, 208 yards. Find the angle of depression. So they want this one over here. To be really honest, that one and that one are the same, so we can call this one X. If that doesn't make any sense. The other possibility that you could do is make another line right here. This would still be 208, and then this is X. And that's the one that tends to make more sense to students. We're looking at this triangle at the top, where the 1,000 is the hypotenuse, and then this one is the opposite. Since we have the opposite in the hypotenuse, we're looking at the sine function. Sine of X, because we don't know the angle measure, is equal to the opposite, which is 208, divided by 1,000, which is your hypotenuse. We're looking for an angle measure. That means that we have to do the inverse of 208 divided by 1,000. And that's going to give you approximately. So second first, then sine 208 divided by 1,000, 12. And I'm going to put 12.0 in its degree since we're looking for an angle measure. From the top of a 120-foot high tower, so here's your tower and it's 120 feet. An aircraft control observer, so this is where their line of sight is, observes an airplane on the runway, so that would be on the ground, at an angle of depression, so this is the 18 right here because you're looking down. How far from the base, so we're looking for this distance right here, so we're going to call it X. How far from the base to the tower is the airplane? So what makes more sense to me is to make this right here, the other side, also equal to 120. And this is the same thing as this, so that would also be X. Making this one the adjacent and this one the opposite. That means we have to use tangent. Tangent of 19 degrees, opposite is 120, adjacent is X, opposite over adjacent. And we cross multiply to solve for X. 1 times 120 is 120, and that's equal to X tangent of 19. Then we're going to divide tangent of 19 to both sides to find the value of X. 120 divided by tangent of 19 is 348.5 feet away from the tower. On the other side, we got situations where we have two angles that we need to do in one scenario. So I'm going to read this one along and highlight some areas just to make sure that you understand. To estimate the height of a garage, so this is the whole garage door right here. Jason sights the top of the garage at a 45-degree angle of elevation. So Jason was right here first. So you have this little triangle where this was 45. We don't know how far he was from the door. And you don't know this measurement right here, so we're going to call it x. From just that part right here, we can set up the trig function, because this is your opposite and this is your adjacent, as tangent, and I'm going to make a box. Tangent of 42 is equal to x divided by y. You can solve for x here by multiplying both sides by y, giving you y is equal to 42. Y tangent of 42 is equal to x. You don't really know why we're solving for x yet, but let's go ahead and look at the other triangle. The other triangle is the longer, skinnier one. This is still x. Now this one is 10. Well, before I continue, let's continue reading the scenario. It says, he then steps back. So wherever he was, he stepped back 20 feet and the sides of the top at a 10-degree angle. So this is now 10 degrees. This is still the distance we don't know. And it's still at the same distance because he didn't grow. He's still 6 feet tall. If Jason is 6 feet tall, how tall is the garage door to the nearest foot? Okay, so this is the distance we need to know. Well, we had some distance, we're going to call it y, and then some 20 feet he moved back. That's how they got that this is the opposite and the adjacent with y plus 20. So at the tangent, this is the opposite and this is the adjacent. We can solve for x by multiplying both sides by y plus 20. And that's going to give you this. So why did we solve for x on both of them? Well, now we can use substitution and set them equal to each other. From here, you're doing the distributive property of y times the tangent of 10 and 20 times the tangent of 10 to get you these two. From here, we're going to subtract the y tangent of 10 to both sides. Y tangent of 10 to both sides. The reason that you want to do that is so you can have the y's on the same side of the equation like we do in algebra. They're on the same side. And they're just rewritten. You don't subtract these two. It is the same values as the original equation. Now here, it's sort of the opposite of distributive property, because if you multiply y times tangent of 42 and y times tangent of 10, you get the previous line. This is called factoring. When you pull out a common multiple, it's called factoring. So they factor out a y. Why do you want to do that? Now we can divide both sides by tangent of 42 minus the tangent of 10 to get rid of it on this side. So we're going to divide both sides by the tangent of 42 minus the tangent of 10. I need everybody to please put this in your calculator. If we don't put it correctly in the calculator, you will not get the correct answer. The numerator is 20 tangent of 10, and you close the parentheses because otherwise you won't read it correctly. So you have to close the parentheses on the tangent of the numerator. Then divided by. And we need the whole thing to be in parentheses, otherwise it will not read it correctly, so you need a parentheses for the whole denominator. So we're going to write tangent of 42. And then we have to close the parentheses for just the tangent. minus the tangent of 10, and close those parentheses for the tangent of 10. Just the tangent of 10. And then we're closing the parentheses again for the whole denominator. You hit enter, and that's how they got approximately 4.87. If you did not get 4.87, it's because you put something wrong on the calculator. But that's the value of y. That is the 4.8. It is not x, and nor is it the length of the garage door. So from here, what we're going to do is use this equation that we solved for x. And I'm going to go like this. So we had the equation y is equal to, I'm sorry, not y is equal to, y tangent of 42 is equal to x. And we need x, but we already have the value of y, so we're going to substitute that in. 4.87 tangent of 42. And that's going to equal our x value. So 4.87 tangent of 42, close those parentheses, equals 4.38. All right, that is just the value of the x, that little portion. So we need the whole portion. He's 6 feet tall. To get your final answer, that's why we're adding 6 to that 4.4 if you round up, to get your final answer of that 10.4.